Hello, everyone, and SWAC family, HBCU family, and welcome to episode number 4 of SWAC Den, SWAC Now. How you doing, Bledsoe?
Mike John.
Man, I'm excited about tonight's show. We have a very special guest, Mr. Ray Higgins. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of Grambling State football.
So, Mike, we had a tiger last week, but like we got another tiger this week, just a different one, different color tiger.
Yeah, but I don't know. Do you think they like being in the month of grays?
Well, we shall find out shortly.
Oh, man. Okay, as we bring on to our next guest, let me give you guys a little short intro. Mr. Ray Higgins specializes in mass communications and radio and television during his time at Evangel University, Grambling State University. He is a Grambling State, Louisiana native. He was the first director and curator of the award-winning Eddie Robinson Museum. He worked with companies such as Weyerhaeuser and Halliburton. He was one of the directors of the Grambling Legend Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. He is the chief marketing officer of the Lewis Dawkins and Associates and is managing partners of the GoGrambling.com, the Grambling Bus, Fan Bus, and the Higgins Travel Group, all divisions of Higgins Consulting LLC. Everyone is welcome to the stage, Mr. Ray Higgins. How you doing, Ray?
Doing fine, man. Wait, that song is so great, man. That fight song is so great.
You think so, man?
Absolutely.
Hey, Ray, I'm gonna pause there for a minute, but you not got one that's even better. How about this one here? As Jay Walker would say, when you hear that, man, you're in trouble.
Yeah. I will confess that, Alcorn was my second favorite school. When I wasn't cheering for Grambling, obviously for obvious reasons, I enjoyed Alcorn. I don't really know why. It was just something. Maybe it was the colors. I don't know, but I enjoyed watching you guys play, and I was proud to have been around when you had probably undeniably your best quarterbacks. I think 2 of them at least that I was able to see, which was Steve McNair, obviously, and Donald Carey. So it was an enjoyable time. It was high scoring. I was there for the Noah versus McNair years, and so it was a wonderful time for football, wonderful time for the SWAC.
Right. This is a SWAC Den question. Do you remember that shootout? I think it was the first game at on Alcorn Stadium that we played under the lights, and I think Donald Carey was the quarterback, and we were playing Grambling that night. I don't know who was the quarterback for Grambling, but man, it was a packed house and it was a shootout.
Oh, it was probably Bruce Eugene.
I don't know. It might have been Bruce Eugene, but man, it was standing room only, and I was just really surprised at the crowd that Grambling brought down there for homecoming. But that particular night, man, it was the end zones wasn't full, but both sides of the stadium was full.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I remember it well.
Now, Ray, are you from Natchez?
No, I'm not from Natchez. I'm actually from Grambling, Louisiana.
Okay, yeah. Your bio did say you were a native of Grambling. Okay, so man, let's talk a little bit about the history of Grambling football. And I guess one of my first questions, would you say that Grambling is probably I want to phrase this right? Would I say that maybe the granddaddy of HBCU football or the winners program of HBCU football? I know Coach Eddie Robb had a historical record there, but let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, to answer your question, I would say yes, because of Coach Robinson, and we had a number of coaches that were able to build on his legacy. We can say that, with the exception of the current coach at this particular time, every coach that coached after Coach Rob has won a championship, at least one championship. And that's something to build on. So I would say that yes, Grambling is the icon of Black college football, with no doubt about it. Easily the most recognizable name in the program and in the game. So yes, I do agree with what you're saying.
Well, let me ask you this question: did Coach Rod win most of those championships before Jackson and Alcorn got into the SWAC, or was it afterwards? Or I know at one time, I don't think Alcorn came into the SWAC until like 1966 or 1964, something like that. And I think maybe Jackson State in 1960. And I don't think were they a founding member of the SWAC?
No, Grambling was not a founding member of the SWAC. We actually came into the SWAC the same year as Jackson did.
Okay. Now I know Prairie View won quite a few championships before back in the day. Now who was that coach? I know the stadium was named after him.
Was it Billy Nix?
Yeah, I think
or was that basketball? I'm not sure.
I think it was Billy Nix. I saw one special where they would call him Prairie View, the Black Notre Dame, or something like that. And then I know Coach Mumford won a bunch of games. But you know, I was hearing stories about Coach Robinson had such powerful teams that I think one season he won the whole season and no one scored on him. You know, so I was just wondering who was his competition and who was his rivals back then. You know. Before we're not talking about this current makeup of the SWAC up until 1960.
Well, we did have an team, which was unscored on, untied, unbeaten. So I believe because we had two. Not one was. I don't think we had an undefeated season, but it wasn't the unseason. I think 1955 was the unseason, but we had in 1942 we had an undefeated season. Okay. So. At that particular time. So yeah, we did have some pretty strong teams. I believe the Bishops and the AM&Ns and those schools were the schools that we were playing back then. So those were the founding members when we came in. They were all, I think, all intact when we got into the conference. So those were the teams that we were playing. We did play actually the 1955 team. It was the Midwestern Athletic Conference. The 1955 team. So we weren't actually in the SWAC at that particular time. We didn't come in until 58, 59. So technically we weren't in the SWAC at the time, but that's our history as far as going back to the team.
Yeah. But for those people that don't know now, I think Bishop and Wallace, those schools had some pretty strong teams back during the day. Some real
absolutely
strong teams. Wow, that's interesting. Now, who do you know who actually coached at Grambling before Coach Rob was there, and did they have a winning program?
Some of them did, some of them didn't. There were a lot of people believe that Coach Rob was the first coach. I've had to correct many of people and even news sources to that effect that there were at least 5 coaches before Coach Rob.
Wow.
Became the head coach. One who started the program was Ralph Otto Emerson Jones, who also was our president. And then we had Ira Smith, Joe Williams, Osiah Johnson, and Emory Hines. All of those coaches preceded Coach Robinson. Coach Robinson came in 1941.
Well, did any of those coaches have a winning program like Coach Rob?
They did not. It was just, at that time, you probably played maybe 4 or 5 games. Traveling was, can you imagine travel in the 20s, in the 30s? Not much travel. You just, you couldn't go too many places. There were not a lot of, roads, and, the time and the climate, really didn't lend for, playing a 9 or 10 game or 11 game schedule at that particular time. So you might have seen some 6 game schedules back then.
Wow, interesting. Now let's start this off at Coach Rob's era. Now, what was his first season like at Grambling? Did he win or?
Well, it wasn't. He didn't have a winning season. I mean, it was a tough season for him because you talk about a 20 something year old young man fresh out of college, being handed the reins of a football program, and at that time he was probably coaching people for probably 5 6, 7, 8 years older than him because, back then, everybody was going to war, so there wasn't really a streamlined school system at that particular time. So, people were kind of, cropping and raising a family and that sort of thing was the standard back then. It wasn't, education was not at the forefront at that particular time. That was the fledgling part, and that's where the HBCUs, especially Grambling, got their start from small towns and a lot of the religious background. That's why you see a lot of the schools in the early the SWAC were religious schools. So they were the bishops and the Paul Quinns and things like that. They were Christian schools, Baptist schools. So they everything revolved around that. So we didn't have there wasn't a lot of that going on. Yes.
Now, what was his first winning season?
Mike, 57 years, it's kind of hard to remember. I mean, as much history as I do know, I probably have forgotten it just as much. I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it was really early on, and maybe 43.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. Because the 43, 44, I think were the war years. So there were no teams. So Coach Rob actually coached the high school at that particular time. And that's where he found Paul Tank Younger.
Wow. Now, where was he from? Do you recall?
Paul Younger?
Yeah.
Paul Younger was from Grambling.
Oh, he's from Grambling. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So what conference were they in at that time?
I'm not sure about that, but the early part when we did the 40, when we went the undefeated team and untitled, they were in the mid Eastern Athletic Conference, not the Mid Eastern, Midwestern Athletic Conference.
Okay.
And of course, everybody knows the history of Paul Tank Younger. I think he was the first Black from an HBCU to get drafted into the NFL.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was. Yes, he was absolutely.
Yeah. Now, is he one of Grambling's NFL Hall of Famers?
No, he's not. He's not actually in the NFL Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, that's been a mystery for a lot of people for a lot of years. Our four Hall of Famers are Willie Davis, Willie Brown, Charlie Joyner, and Junius Buck Buchanan.
Okay.
And we also have a CFL Hall of Famer, Alfred Payton Sr.
Wow. Man.
All first ballot.
Now, during my era was just knowing Gremlins football. I tell you, man, one of my favorite players was just watching this guy play with Trumaine Johnson.
Of course.
Yeah, man, I've seen he and Ike Hope just have some battles.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually one of my favorite players because he was at Grambling when I was in high school. So okay. Imagine going to the games every weekend, and I didn't know what spatting was until I saw Trumaine Johnson. I didn't know what it was, but I know he looked cool. He had the little towel hanging from his hip. He wore number 2, which at that time not a lot of players wore single digits back then. And he did everything about it was cool. He had the sweatbands. He was tall. He was strong. He catch the ball. He was fast. I mean, he was everything that you wanted in a receiver, punt returner, and kickoff returner. And was a pretty good basketball player. And was a pretty darn good basketball player.
Now, you don't have to answer this question because I don't want to get you into trouble, but just being a SWAC fan,
mm-hmm.
who would you say was probably the best wide receiver to ever come out of Grambling?
Well, if you would say the best one that I ever saw play, okay, I guess I have to ask you this: what do you consider best? Is it statistics, or is it what is that what you're saying? Statistic wise,
we could go with statistics, or we could just go to a dynamic player.
Well, I would say Trumaine Johnson is probably one of the most dynamic, exciting players that I've seen. I didn't get a chance to see people like Sammy White, Frank Lewis, Henry Dyer, and those guys play. So I know that they were good because the stats prove it, but I did not actually get a chance to see them play growing up. And then if I did, I probably didn't know what I was looking at because I was probably like 5, 6, 7 years old. So I would say Trumaine Johnson. I would say a clutch. We've had many clutch performers at the wide receiver position. Clyde Edwards comes to mind. I think he's the all-time leading receiver in yards. We had Scotty Anderson, Henry Tolbert, Carlos Pennywell, Fred Jones. We had a litany of great receivers coming out of Grambling. Mike Smith, a lot of them that came out and that went on to play professional football.
Man, Pennywell and Doug was a connection. Just it was just something to watch. But man,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Him and along with Robert Woods. You remember Robert Woods was a world-class sprinter.
exactly.
And so imagine him, getting a punt or a kickoff return, and the guy's got, world-class speed. And, imagine how hard it is to catch him, running, he runs a 9, what was the record at the time? 9-1 something, whatever in the 100. He was killing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's kind of amazing. Everybody talk, they had such a great group of prolific receivers down there, but I guess probably one of the most notable one would be the two most notable ones would probably be when you say maybe Sammy White and Charlie Joyner.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie, I mean, again, I didn't get a chance to see Charlie play when he was at Grambling because that was way before my time. I just kind of start understanding what football was a little bit through my mother, watching, when Doug and Sammy were there.
Yeah.
So
but I guess I'm talking about as far as just maybe NFL status too,
Well, Sammy played 10 years in the NFL and he was rookie of the year. So, I mean, that's huge. That's a huge feat.
Yeah.
10 solid years, all pro level, and he was a rookie, NFL rookie of the year. So, those guys, Eddie and Charlie, I think I remember hearing something. I think Bill Walsh said that Charlie Jones was one of the smoothest calculating receivers that he had ever coached, that he had ever seen at that time. So, those are big words from a guy who's a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah. And he was profound with that. Didn't he play with the Chargers? And that
Charlie Jones, yes, he did.
Yeah, he was part of that Eric Cannell thing that they had going on out there.
Right.
Well, man, have you ever just thought about maybe doing a book or something just on the players that Coach Rob sent to the NFL?
Well, I'm not much of a writer, Mike. So somebody would definitely have to ghostwrite there for me. But I had started doing some social media things. I started a show called the Legendary Conversation, where I would go and talk to some of our greats in the past. I've had an opportunity to interview Coach Doug Porter, who was a coach eventually at Mississippi Valley. I think he went on to Howard and to Fort Valley, but he was first our offensive coordinator. So he has a litany of history that over a period of years that he was at Grambling, and he almost stole, from the story goes, he almost stole Doug Williams from us.
Wow.
So those are some great stories, and those are the type of things that I missed when I left the Eddie Robinson Museum. Was the stories. Those people would, we had some former players would come in, and they would bring their relatives in, their grandchildren, and they would walk around and tell the story. Well, I met your grandmother right over here, and we used to play basketball in here and roller skate, and then we would take them around to the place where we had all of the players that had gone into the league, and looking at that player find himself on the wall and then show his grandchild that picture, those are some really great fond memories that I had when I worked at the museum.
Wow. Well, can you tell our audience a little bit about the Eddie Robinson physique as far as, just him walking through the dorms and ringing the cowbell in the morning, that kind of thing?
Well, I know a little bit more about Coach Rob than most because we also attended the same church.
Okay.
So, you're talking about, to us, he was just Coach Rob. He wasn't what a lot of people outside of Grambling saw him. We just knew, Coach Rob, he showed like the president. The president at the time, Ralph Waldo Emerson Jones, he attended our church as well. So we just knew him as president coach. And it wasn't anything to see them there on any given Sunday. you know, participating in the worship and teaching classes and things like that. So even, you know, even with the hard schedule Coach Robinson had and Prez, they were still, you know, God-fearing people and would come to church and participate like that. They weren't standoffish kind of people. They were involved in the community big time. So, um, you know, that meant a lot to the entire community. And for someone like me growing up, you know, I used to play football in his backyard. I had a friend that lived right across the street from Coach Rob, and we would go over Saturdays sometimes if it was an early game, and we would go and mimic the people who we saw that earlier that day playing in Coach Rob's backyards. And sometimes he would come out there and, you know, correct somebody. Hey, yeah, you got to catch the ball like this. You want to throw it, you got to block. You know, so he was still coaching even after he had spent the previous 5 or 6 hours coaching a football game. He still had time to come out and spend some time with the youth of the community.
Wow. And I remember as a young kid, Coach Robert made the wearing the suits and the tennis shoes famous on the sideline. You know, a lot of people don't realize that, but that was his thing, man. He wore those suits and he had on tennis shoes, walking up and down the sideline. I just thought that was one of the most neatest things as a young kid could see. You know.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he wore the tennis shoes quite that much, but he did wear the suits. There may have been a case where it might have been a sponsorship thing. I know we had something with Nike back in the day, and that might have been what that was about. But yeah, Coach Rob was he was a gentleman's gentleman, man. He very respectful. He took the time to speak to many people. He would at his own. I mean, he'd be tired, and he would shake everybody's hands, sign autographs, give encouraging words, and because that's who he was. It wasn't a facade. That was who he was. He was genuinely like that. Now, when he came to coaching, now he was a dog. Now, he coached hard. You know, he coaches hard, his players hard, and then he would cry at the drop of a hat. You know, he would, if the team needed some lifting up, Coach Rob would shed a tear down. You know, and next thing you know, we ready to go out there and bust some heads. So I mean, Coach know how to he was a master motivator, but he was a great X and O coach as well.
I remember, and you could probably go back to this in 1994. That was Steve McNair's senior year at Alcorn, and before, I think that game used to be played back then. But it was always the first game of the season between Alcorn and Grambling.
Correct.
And at one point, it was the Red River Classic, and normally, who won that game was probably going to win the SWAC. But
pretty much.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video. And Coach Rob was waking the players up in the dorms. He's walking down the hallway. He's ringing his Cowboys, and he was saying, "He's coming. He's coming. Ed McNair's coming."
Well, he might have done that, but he did that actually well before Steve was probably even playing football. So maybe some of his brothers probably. But yeah, Coach, the cowbell was a thing because what his thing was, he wanted to make sure that the student athletes. And again, student athletes got up and got dressed, took a shower, got dressed, went to the caf, and then went to class. So his way of making sure, because back then, of course, there was no computers that let him know that John Smith didn't come to class or whatever. He made sure they at least got up and got out. Now, what they did after that. But he made sure that they got out of that bed, got into the shower, and left that dormitory because he wanted to make sure that they had the right start for the right day. Because Coach Wright, if you didn't go to class, you didn't play. So he had to make sure you at least went to class.
Well, not only did Grambling revolutionize Black college football, but let's let our audience know about now. Everybody talk about Power 5 and this and that in the big schools, but Grambling was also famous for revolutionized the sports information director's position. They had a famous SID over there that was doing something that no other school in the country was doing, including the PWIs. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, Callie J. Nicholson, easily one of the architects of the Bayou Classic. He would the stories that I would hear. He would write stories. He would drive to Monroe, Louisiana, or Shreveport, where they had a telegraph office, and he would telegraph stories to the Vicksburg Courier Gazette, and all the other black newspapers around the country who would take stories from from black colleges. So yes, Collie J. Nicholson was very instrumental in doing a lot of that. The nicknames that a lot of players had. It was derived from Collie J. Nicholson. They would come up with nicknames, and he would put it in his articles, and so people started getting those names. Shaq Harris and Chicken Red Hilton. That's the basketball player, and Trumaine Johnson, Too Cold, Trumaine Johnson. Those sorts of things. Those are things that he was innovative in, and was able to get Grambling's name out there. So much to the point where there were only two only two football program replay shows in the country. One was Notre Dame, and the other one was Grambling. So I've heard stories of people being late to church because Grambling's replay show was on Sunday mornings. So you had kids and parents and even husbands missing church because they wanted to see Coach Rob and the Grambling football team. What did they do what did they do yesterday? So those sorts of things are innovative and probably have been replicated over and over again. Probably not even really knowing who the author and the architect of those things actually were, but using the telegraph, going because there was no internet, there was no FedEx or DHL and none of those types of things. He had to do it the way which is, and that's why I marvel at somehow some of the people don't get things done this day and age. You got a guy that had to get in a car, and he was a couple of decades away from the Pony Express, and he's going and getting those types of articles out, and you can come up with them now. You can search the archives of the Pittsburgh Courier Gazette and find articles from the 40s on Grambling, in the 50s, and they would be, he would be the writer of them. Collie J. Nicholson was the writer of many of those articles.
And not only did Grambling have that great football program, but behind that football program was the world fame, and it was just one big show. They were just all over the country, from New York to Los Angeles. It was just an amazing show to see.
Well, Coach Rob would say a lot of times that most people come to see the band and then just happen to stay around for the football team, for the football game. So, he felt that, and I remember seeing a couple of interviews where he felt that the team wasn't complete and the team didn't play as well if the band wasn't in attendance. So in the early years, you would hardly ever see the Grambling football game away from Grambling without the band there. And he would also say that the band members worked as hard as some of the football teams did when they were working out and getting prepared for the season. Around Grambling, August the 1st is like band day. That's when the band reports to campus. The freshmen report to campus. So that's like a holiday for band members, August 1st, whenever it is, everybody's coming in and getting ready for the new band season, and getting ready to do tour days just like the football team does, and travel as much as they did. The band the band is its own entity. We've traveled. I used to be the videographer for the band actually for a couple of years, and we would go sometimes on Sundays. We'd open stadiums up, the Texans. We would go to Pontiac Superdome. We go to the what do you call that? Where the Seahawks used to play back in the day.
The Kingdom.
Yeah, Kingdom. All those places, man. We would open those things up. Three River Stadium, Coliseum. Actually, we actually Alcorn and Grambling opened up the Superdome. So there's a lot of history with the band and with the university, the band and the football team, and we are definitely hand in hand. And it really doesn't seem a whole lot when we go away and play away sometimes if the band is not there. It just doesn't seem the same, because that fight song and Tiger Rag when we score a touchdown and those types of things, and playing neck when the football team comes out, gets everybody hyped, and playing I Thought You Knew, and that's what's that chant that Rocks the House, the check that Grambling started that Jackson State stole. So yeah, let's be clear. Let's be
I knew that
clear.
was coming.
Yeah,
I knew
let's
that
be
was
clear
coming.
about that. Let's
You know
be
what?
clear about it.
I was
I'm not saying I'm not, and Jackson does it well. See, I'm a band. I love the band. I love band. So Jackson does it well, but you know,
great.
it was tough.
I was looking at a video today. One of the drum majors in 1988 admitting that they stole that from Grambling.
And to their credit, they played it. They played it more than we did
Yeah.
since that time. We got to stop playing it. We just got to start playing. And then I bet I can guarantee you now, if Grambling band went to a game in Jackson and started playing it, people would say, "Oh man, Grambling stole that from Jackson State."
And Grambling would probably end up getting booed.
Exactly. Well, that's going to happen anyway. That's going to happen anyway. Yeah,
Wow.
it's going to happen anyway.
Well, man, I tell you, I can remember those Red River Classics. That was an awesome venue. I think so much importance now is put on the bringing that game being played home and home. But man, that game, that Labor Day Classic, Red River Classic, that game would bring out so many people from the Mississippi, Louisiana area. Not only just Alcorn Gremlins fans, but it would bring out Jackson State fans. It would bring out Mississippi Valley fans. It would bring out Southern fans because it was just the game. It was just the game for Labor Day weekend.
Right. And you're talking about also Texas and Arkansas.
Yeah, Texas.
So you're talking about basically four states that people would come for. And I remember really, that game used to be, there wasn't too many games bigger than that game. Probably the Capital City Classic we know was bigger. The Bayou Classic obviously was bigger. The State Fair hadn't gotten to that point yet. It hadn't got to that point yet where it was that big. But, the Red River Classic was, the Grambling Alcorn Red River Classic, because, there was a Grambling Pine Bluff Red River Classic that didn't go over too well.
It wasn't like the Alcorn Grambling Red River Classic.
No, absolutely not.
And I was
absolutely not.
The other day, I said, everybody talking about this Red River Classic now between Texas and Oklahoma. I said, the true Red River Classic back during the day was Alcorn and Grambling. Yeah,
that's I think they have a slightly different name, but absolutely, man. We, that Red River Classic was big, man, and people finally remember it. I don't really want to see it again because I like playing home and home.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be wasting, when we got those stadiums, I think we should use them. So I'm all for playing home and home in those types of situations, but it always brings back fond memories when I think about going down, traveling to Shreveport, and it being that big deal at the beginning of the year, like when we would go to New Orleans at the end of the year. It was a really big deal going to Shreveport.
And I got to say this too. Back then, Ray, we just didn't have the venue to host that kind of a crowd. I think before Old Henderson Stadium couldn't handle that kind of crowd. And I can remember, I want to say it was in 1983, Alcorn opened up Grambling's new stadium.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely did.
And of course, my mom being an Alcornite, I didn't really want to go to the game because I think the same lady who had predicted President Kennedy was going to get killed predicted that the Superdome was going to sink, and she come pinching me by the ear, pulling me to the car, and she made me go to that Alcorn Grambling game that opened up the game in the Superdome in 1976 or 1977.
I think it was 70. I think it was 75 or 76. Yeah, you're right.
It was somewhere back there. Yeah, man, Grambling beat us like we were.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Man, we can, because I think we had beaten Grambling the year before. We were like Black National Champs or something like that.
Okay.
Man, we couldn't handle that day. Man, I wasn't really paying too much to the game. I was trying to see if the top of that dome was going to tilt over or something, man.
I was more afraid of the Astrodome than I was of the Superdome. Trust me.
Yeah, man, those are some good old days. Bless, I'm gonna let you go ahead and answer. Of course, I'll probably talk too much, but eventually we'll get in and talk about some of the famous players out of Grambling too. Besides the one that we talked about earlier.
No, sure. I'm gonna ask some different type of questions for you, Ray. Usually, when a kid grows up in the same town that a college is in, they try to get away, right? So
Sure.
what held you at Grambling? I mean, you grew up there, you're around it. You know, was it family? Was it just something ingrown in you?
Well, technically, Mike B, I did leave. I went
Okay,
away to school. I went to a junior college to play basketball,
okay,
and then I went to Evangel University, and then I came back to Grambling. So,
okay.
and the reason that I did go away is because I got a basketball scholarship to
Right,
go away.
right,
That's the reason. That's exactly the reason why I went away. I could have gone to Grambling for next to nothing because my mom was at the time she was the dean of students, and when your parent works on campus, the kids go for really cheap.
right.
And I could have gone to Grambling for really next to nothing other than probably paying for my books, but I wanted to play basketball, and Grambling didn't offer me a basketball scholarship, so I went where they offered me a scholarship. So that's why I went away. And then, but every summer I would come back to Grambling and go to summer school because that was just the thing to do. I wanted to get ahead in my grades in case something happened while I was playing basketball. So I would come to school every summer. I would come to summer school.
So what was it like being on campus at that time? I mean, what was the atmosphere like? Was it?
Well, I graduated from high school in 1984. So you're talking about some really good football being played. I think Jackson was probably stronger than the strongest they probably have ever been during the 80s. I remember, no, it was the 90s. They were strong in the 90s, I think.
Well, they
So,
won
but
their championships in the late '80s. Is when they
right,
won their championship. They
right,
shared the
right. So,
championship with you guys in '85.
okay,
Yeah. In 1984, we went undefeated. I never will forget that year. And then from 85 to 1990, man, Jackson went on a run that was just,
right.
I don't think they lost a SWAC game. But now I
Yeah,
will say
it was a pretty strong run. I think that it was like when I think Coach Rob had the 70s. I think maybe Southern and Prairie View had maybe the 60s. Uh, the early, the 50s and 60s, and then uh, I think the 2000s. I think was Southern in the
Yeah.
2000. Well, we had three in a row. We had three championships in a row in 2000. But that's when Pete Richardson came, and a lot of stuff happened when he came, and so it was a fun time growing up on campus. We still had high rise dorms. We had a lot of for me, um, in a town like that, we had a lot of organizations in sports and activities on during the summertime for a town that small because we had Baptist Youth Encampment, which is a big, Baptist camp that was held on campus. We had National Youth Sports Program, which is a federally funded program that was nationwide. We had Upward Bound, High Ability. We had a lot of organizations, a lot of activities on campus. So we got a chance to meet a lot of people, and so we developed our skills a lot earlier than most that did not have organized sports only until they had school. We had it during the summertime, and we would play. For 6 weeks, we played basketball, track, we swam, softball. We had enrichment time where we would go and learn about things that would harm us, drugs and alcohol and things like that. And even the young ladies sometimes had modern dance, so volleyball. So there were plenty of opportunities for us during the summer to uh, to have activities where we would get complacent and start doing bad things. So I thank goodness for NYSP and those types of programs because if not, I might have been on a different path back then.
So what was your favorite thing to do other than basketball?
Well, you're asking a lot now. You talking sports wise?
Hey, I
Yeah.
didn't put a category on that.
Okay. All right.
Just a
Well,
question.
I thought I hated football because I hated getting hit.
Right.
But I was really fast and I had really good hands. I probably would make a really good receiver, but I just
Right.
I just couldn't, I couldn't take getting hit and people coming at me and giving free shots at me. I just couldn't. That didn't register for me as something that I needed to do. Just like I couldn't do baseball because I couldn't stand some 8 or 9 year old kid with no control throwing a
Right.
ball at me.
Right.
It just didn't make sense for me to stand there and hope he may not hit me. So I'm like,
Right.
nah, I'll take my. But I excelled at track. So I was good. I was really fast, and so that was my thing. They used to call me Little Flash, but I was really fast. So that was a really good thing. That I was one of the other good things I like to do other than play basketball.
Okay. Watch this, Ray.
Sure.
Mike Jones, what was your favorite thing to do on Alcorn campus? Because we got similar campuses. Tell us what was your favorite thing to do, Mike Jones?
I'm gonna plead the fifth.
So at Alcorn State, like at Grambling, we out there in the middle of you know what, and it wasn't much to do. So the men's side of campus was separate from the women's side of campus.
Correct.
So mostly all the males' favorite thing to do would be on the female side of campus.
Oh, you talking about panty raids and yeah, well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, technically, I never participated in any of that.
Technically.
Okay, so there's nobody can say that they saw me, and will say that they saw me there. So I'm good.
Okay. So
everybody's been paid off.
Well, yeah, I guess you got the money. Who was your favorite professor and why?
Dr. Horton. He taught philosophy. He was just no nonsense. I mean, he didn't take a lot of excuses. I remember one time somebody came in late. He said, when my car broke down. He said, well, didn't the car give you a warning that something was about to happen to it? You mean it just stopped all of a sudden, or did it give you a warning by failing to start one time and you had to jump it and failing to start a second time? So you thought that the third time was going to start again. He said, no, that's not an excuse, because that first time you should have gotten your battery changed and you wouldn't be late for my class. So Dr. Horton, I really loved the late Dr. Horton. He was a really good guy. He was tough as nails, but he was fair. And, if that's all I could ask for a professor, is to be tough and fair. Well, not as tough as on me, but yeah, tough enough.
Right. So what was your favorite building on campus? Where did you like to hang out?
The women's gym, ironically, because as growing up, that was where a young basketball player that, myself, that was playing junior high basketball and trying to get better, that was like the proving grounds for us. We would go there and we would play against college students. We would play against people from Louisiana Tech. You would see some of the best. Now, Grambling and Tech never played basketball back then, but they played in the women's gym. Carl Malone would go in there. You would see some of the Lady Texers go in the women's gym and play against our women's basketball, because we never played each other back then. And ironically, that very building it used to be a roller rink, and actually used to be one of the main buildings on campus. But now it is the Eddie Robinson Museum. So it kind of came full circle and turned out, something that turned out to be good, turned out to be much better, because it started to go down a little bit after, we stopped using it a whole lot. But then, the idea came to make it the Eddie Robinson Museum, and that's what it is today. So yeah, the women's gym was great. It was awesome.
I watched it, because I thought you were saying that Carl Malone came down there for the women at the women's gym. That's what I thought you said.
I didn't deny it. No, let me take that. I'm not gonna say it, because I know Carl. So I know I'm not gonna say that.
All right, Mike, I'm good.
Man, that is very interesting. Well, let me ask you this question, Ray. Now, I don't know if this is a true story, but is it true that they say, I was told that Terry Bradshaw, when he was at Louisiana Tech, used to come over and throw passes to some of the Grambling receivers? Is that true?
I cannot verify that. That's not a story that I have heard. Now, I did hear. You remember Burt Jones, who played at LSU? His father used to come and teach some of the wide receivers and tight ends at Grambling. That I do know is true, and I'm pretty sure he probably brought his son along as well, because if Dub Jones at that time, I think he played for Cleveland, played tight end for Cleveland. If he had enough wherewithal to at that time, now you're talking about like the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So he lived in Ruston, he came to Grambling, he respected Coach Rob enough to come and teach his players how to play professional football, how they were doing it in the professional league. So I'm pretty sure his son Bert Jones came. So I can't verify that story. I can find out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I heard that story, but I wasn't. I know I never did get that story verified, and I was just.
I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked at all because, with being only 5 miles apart, and never played each other, you want to kind of go see what those guys are about. So I mean, I don't think Terry Bradshaw in his strongest ever threw harder than Doug Williams threw. Now I don't know because I never caught a pass from Terry Bradshaw, but I caught a pass from Doug, and it darn near killed me. So, but Doug has a pretty strong arm, but I heard Terry Bradshaw could chunk it. I heard he could chunk it.
What's the best Shaq Harris or Doug Williams story that you've heard on campus?
Ooh, I don't know because they played. After Shaq played before Doug, and there was a couple of quarterbacks in between those two. I think it was maybe 2 quarterbacks in between them. So they were kind of separated. So there wasn't really anything. But let me see if I can. I don't really know one of Doug. I don't really know any stories of those guys. That's unfortunate, and that's one of the things that I'm going to get to the bottom of because I actually, Shaq came to my tailgate this weekend because when they dedicated the field to Shaq and Doug, he came by and he had never been to my tailgate before, and actually, he came with Larry Wright. Larry Wright played for the Washington Bullets and won the world championship with the Washington Bullets. They came by the tailgate on for homecoming, so I don't really know many of those stories like that. But let me tell you, while I'm at it, let me tell you a story that I heard from someone who knows Coach Castle well.
Uh-oh.
I was heard, and I want both mics to verify. I already know the answer. I just want to see if y'all go tell the truth. The secret football field at Alcorn. True, yes or no?
The secret football field.
Yeah.
I think that's false there. I don't know nothing about no secret football field. Now, if you ask me about Rodney, I can tell you something about Rodney, but I don't know nothing about no secret
I was about to say Rodney. If you talk about Rodney, then there's some stories there. But secret football,
well, I was told,
in what context?
I was told that it was a secret football field where practice was extended beyond the time that was allotted by the NCAA.
So
and that there would be times where the team would go back in the woods and in practice where they couldn't be seen by just any old person coming to the stadium or to the practice field.
Now I will say this: I don't know if that's factual. However, the statute of limitations is.
Absolutely. They're untouchable. They're untouchable.
The thing about it, Ray, when you look at our campus and the way and where our campus is, all you got to do, man, is go out there and cut some car lights on, like and
Hey, and that was part of it. Okay, so I want to say that y'all to kind of claim plausible deniability, right? Y'all saying that you don't know, you can't confirm or deny.
Can't confirm.
Okay.
I could deny, but I can't confirm.
Well, I'm gonna just say this: I don't hear some stories on Coach Rob and Coach Castle and Coach Gordon and all those guys did some crazy stuff back then that the NCAA, man, hey.
Yeah, I heard another story about the bag of groceries. I heard about the bag of grocery story.
Let's hear that one.
Okay. There's a certain Alcorn coach. I'm not gonna call any names. They were recruiting one of our coaches and one of their coaches. A coach from Alcorn was recruiting the same player. So our coach had gotten a good rapport with the player. You know, actually the player was kind of close to where we are, and a little further away from where Alcorn is. So, so our coach went back one time. I think it was getting close to signing day. So our coach went back one time to kind of just follow up. Hey, you know, we'll see where you are, you know, with the recruiting and things like that, and just want to make sure that you still, you know, still trying to choose Grambling. And so the parent of that child started to kind of hem and haw, like, well, I don't know, and I don't know, we might be thinking about something else. And then the coach kind of, they were kind of walking toward the living room, and they walked past the kitchen, and he saw like a whole table full of groceries on the table. And next thing you know, that player's going to Alcorn. So, yeah, so those are types of things that, you know, again,
I'd
statute
like to know what
limitation.
type of groceries that were. Was some from the field, or was it bagged up, or was it? Because
Oh, it was probably bags of groceries. They might have got it from the grocery store. I don't know. You know.
I'm just saying that, you know, coming from Alcorn, we are A&M college,
Exactly.
agricultural. So I just
Exactly.
wanted some
Hey,
mustard greens.
and he just went back to the farm, loaded it in the car, brought it on over there. I think it was, I want to say Minden, Louisiana. I think that's where it was.
You might want to stay with. You don't want to call. You know, people start guessing on names. Then you start calling.
Yeah, they won't find anybody that would testify, so that's okay.
Hey, but I can tell you this. Now, my dad was the principal at Heidelberg High, and I'm not going to. Alcorn was one of the schools that were recruiting this particular player, right? I'm not going to call the other school's name, but so my dad and Coach Castle went to this kid's house, and here's this other SWAC school, all this warm-ups and tennises and all this kind of stuff laying out on the bed and stuff. And Castle like, man, what is all this stuff here doing here? And what they didn't know, the other SWAC school's head coach is in the closet hiding.
Funny. That's hilarious. Funny.
Out there, I had to tell you about that story because
okay,
that
off camera, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was a funny story. But those are the good old days of the SWAC.
But I'm looking, Grambling won a championship in 89. Jackson State won 86, 87, 88. Grambling won in 89. Jackson State again in 90.
Okay.
Well, you know, Bless, so we did talk about this on one of our previous shows, and I think look at it like this, from 1965 up until 1990, you only had 3 schools that was going to win the SWAC. That was Alcorn, Jackson, and Grambling. That was it.
Then yeah, because during that time, Southern went like 17 years without winning the championship in football, if I remember correctly. They went about 17 years without winning one.
Yeah.
They won in 59, and then again in 75. They shared with Grambling in 75.
Okay.
And that was it up until Pete Richardson got to town. Now, I often wonder, and this is not taking anything away from Coach Pete Richardson because he did an extraordinary job at Southern. But I wonder if that record would have been what it was if Coach Castleman was still in his prime at Alcorn and if Coach Eddie Robertson was still in his prime at Grambling.
That would be an interesting question. All I know is that the conference will be a lot better.
Yeah.
Game to game, no doubt about that.
And I think at the time Coach Richardson took over. Coach Richardson was what I would deem a beneficiary of the transfer portal early back then, because he got a lot of players from LSU when LSU back at that time had some players to come over to Southern University. So when you talk about
I would agree. I definitely agree. And one big one comes to mind, Michael Haynes. My goodness.
Michael Haynes, yeah.
My goodness.
Matter of fact, LSU put out a rule or something saying that they didn't want players going over to Southern or something like
Yeah, I
that.
think they put it into it for something. I forgot it was a player, and because they kind of wanted those players out of the city. And so they said you go anywhere but here.
Well, one of my
And,
friend's son-in-law played at Louisiana Tech. He wanted to go to Grambling, transfer. That was one of the things that was a no-no. You can't go there. You can go anywhere else, but you can't go there. He ended up at Jackson State.
okay.
So,
well, let me ask you this question: did a lot of the black players over at Tech come over and get girls from Grambling or marry girls from Grambling? I mean, they probably didn't have a bigger option at Tech, right?
No, there was probably a very limited African American population at Louisiana Tech, and I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure you could find them at every game, party, uh, you know, all of that. Absolutely, they did. And I think I remember hearing one of the coaches at Tech the story by so listen, you can go over there to get your hair cut. You can go over there to do that, but you can't attend that. You got to attend Tech. You can't go over there. You can go visit. That's about it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they dated, and from Ruston and Graham. I'm pretty sure they did. How could you not?
Well, we
Because you
talking
got a
about,
lot of you said some players that really didn't grow up around a lot of white people, so they probably just didn't, they probably didn't want to take that chance back then to trying to cross those lines. So they just came to Graham and dated, went back to Tech, went to school, played football, played sports.
well, let me ask you this question, Ray.
Sure.
Was Grambling open up because of them not wanting blacks to go to Tech? It's similar to Valley being opened up because of them not wanting blacks to go to Delta State.
I'm sorry. So repeat that question.
Was Grambling opening for the simple reason of them not wanting blacks to go to Louisiana Tech during that era?
No, what it was there was some farm. There was some. And if I remember correctly, there was some clergy in the area and farmers in the area that petitioned Booker T. Washington at Tuskegee to help send someone to educate the farmers and the people in the area. And that's how Grambling was born, through Tuskegee.
And
So
so
Tuskegee is our founding school. They sent Charles P. Adams, Booker T. Washington sent Charles P. Adams to Grambling to start Grambling, Louisiana Negro Normal, an industrial institute, and then which ended up becoming Grambling College and Grambling State University.
let our audience know the year that Grambling was founded.
1901.
1901. Okay.
I believe it was August 1901.
Wow. Now we have discussed a number of the great offensive players. We mentioned Doug. We mentioned Shaq Harris. We mentioned Shemaine Johnson, Charlie Johnson, those guys. Let's talk a little bit about some of the great defensive players that played at Grambling and went on to that next level.
Ooh, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. You're talking about, and here's a fun fact. Willie Brown, NFL Hall of Famer, at cornerback, didn't play cornerback at Grambling. He played defensive end.
And for the life of me, I do not know why we couldn't keep Willie Brown at either Alcorn or Jackson State, because he is from
Yazoo City.
and his head coach was an Alcornite.
Wow.
I just a little bit of, and you probably don't know this, Ray, but just a little bit of history point. His head coach was one of the Boston brothers. You remember Ralph Boston, who won the Olympics?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that was his brother was the head coach at Yazoo City, and Coach Willie Brown, and his other brother, Peter Boston, was the head coach. I think they were Peter and Carl Boston. One coached at Yazoo City, and one coached at Columbia High School, which was Walter Payton's high school.
Okay.
So those two brothers coached, and both of those were Alkalites, and one coach Walter Payton and one coach Willie Brown.
Wow. That's
Just,
pretty amazing.
yeah, just wanted to lay that out there to you. I didn't know if you knew that.
No, I did not. I definitely did not. And you know, that just to me that just kind of adds more to the mystique of Coach Rob, that he was able to get a player of that caliber to to come to Grambling, because it's still, we talk about the '60s, and so things were slow, and I think it goes back to Collie J. Nicholson and the success of the football program and the band, because how does Grambling become a household name in the '60s and '70s when there was no social media, there was no high stream anything,
Right.
there was barely 3 channels, 3 to 4, ABC, NBC, CBS. So how does Grambling become a household name? And back then, and I said the formula was this: have ball, will travel. So when Grambling would always go to all these big, large cities, people would come. People would see Grambling, become familiar with Grambling. And that's how Grambling became so popular in the '60s and '70s and '80s, because we were always everywhere. We were in Chicago, Detroit, Florida. We were in California. We were in New York, New Jersey, Cincinnati, Texas. We went to all these metropolitan areas and played football. The band was there. The band got popular. The football team was popular. So when we were winning, we were one of the first teams on TV. So, with the playback show, imagine that thing went on for a number of years. So think about it, a generation of people saw Grambling on TV and thought Grambling was in this big metropolitan area, this big, huge city. But it wasn't. And that has everything to do with Eddie Robinson, Collie J. Nicholson, Ralph Waldo Emerson Jones, and all the presidents and people around that time that helped put Grambling on the map in that respect.
So let me ask you this question.
I want our audience to know, and the young people that are watching this show, if we can get the young kids to watch this show, Grambling used to sell out Yankee Stadium up there with Morgan State, and it was just something that nobody had never seen before.
In some cases, some of the first time that people had ever seen, black college football. So I can't imagine what the marketing and promotion was, for in that area. I'm pretty sure it was a lot of radio station stuff. It wasn't a lot of billboards back then, so it's probably a lot of radio stations. Again, only 3 TV stations. Right. So everybody was watching one of the 3 stations, or you didn't watch it all. So you listen to the radio, and then again, black radio, and then the newspaper. Those newspapers did a lot to get Grambling's name out there across the country year after year after year. So I've read a lot of articles, by dealing with the Legends Hall of Fame, and those articles tell a big story. And I would encourage, this is just, my soapbox. I would encourage all the SIDs and everybody in charge to look at those old articles. And you can go to those places like the Pittsburgh Courier-Gazette and the Shreveport Sun-Times, and I think there's a Monroe. I forgot the name of the Monroe paper, but there's a lot of black newspapers across the country, and those things are archived. And you can go back and see a lot of pertinent information about schools that you probably thought was lost, because a lot of it's not really covered in depth in yearbooks and media guides. So I would definitely encourage people to kind of look into that, to try to build their archival history at their schools.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
This is, I know the time is coming up on us, so I don't want to get into deep discussion, because you're going to give me a short answer when I ask you this question. It's going to be a real short answer, but you might not like the question. Has Grambling fallen off?
It's not a short answer. Grambling falling off. Okay, as far as name recognition or football?
Well, we know football is not what it used to be. We know that. Right. That's a given. But right. Name recognition.
Well, my stance on that is that we haven't done enough to build on the foundation that was there. We had a great foundation. It cemented us for having traveled with the band a lot. I would see people like when we went to Portland, Oregon one time to play a football game. I saw people with old faded Grambling shirts on. They probably had brand new when they were at Grambling.
Right.
And they would follow the band down through the streets because they had never seen anything since they had been in school. You having a bunch of students in that area that had never done, had never actually seen a Black college marching band ever. And that thing sticks with you, man. I've talked to people who come from, when I was in school and growing up, we had people coming from every country, every state. I'm like, what got you to Grambling? It was either my dad saw Grambling on TV, or my mom saw Grambling on TV, or they had a relative that went to Grambling. They talked Grambling up. And so that foundation was really strong. But over the years, I would say that we kind of took ourselves for granted, and we just assumed that we were always going to be what we were. And little did we know that there was other people that's out there training. Coaches are getting better, players are getting better, not coming to Grambling all the time. We're taking for granted that we're going to get them. We don't always get them, and it ends up biting us in the butt on the back end. And that's how the other schools, I think, started to come up and overtake. I keep bringing up the band because I remember there was that song that Kanye West and Jamie Foxx did, Gold Digger.
Mm-hmm.
I was filming for the band at the time, and they wanted the band to be part of that Grammy show, that the Music Awards show, and I was there, and they really wanted Grambling to be in it, but FAMU got the nod because we weren't able to get that information to them that they requested in time, but if you look at the performance was Grambling's performance. They did the moves that Grambling was known for in the style that Grambling did, not necessarily FAMU's style of playing and marching and performing. So we've gotten I post everything Grambling, man. I mean, I remember going back and watching episodes back in the day where they mentioned James Shack Harris on an episode of the Richard Pryor show. I remember seeing on different strokes, they had that Grambling pennant on the wall.
Right.
In the thing. I mean, you could go back from movies from, Friday Night Lights to Cosby Show to Boys in the Hood to all those types of movies, The Different World, things like that. What's that? Sister Act. All those things you see somebody with Grambling on. It's because somebody was thinking about Grambling enough to put us in that position to give us a chance to be seen nationally. And we just we're not doing enough of that to keep up with everybody else now that has, more funds, a bigger name, now than we do, and things like that. So, like I said before, there was only two relay shows in the nation, not just Black, just period.
Well, it's funny because if you think about it, this day and age of social media, you shouldn't be falling off in that regard. And I feel like, I'll say this about Alcorn State, and you'll probably concur with the same with Grambling, but we did not take advantage of the time that we have, because winning is cyclical. You're not going to win all the time.
Absolutely not.
You're going to win here and there. You're going to win a couple in a row or one or two here. So you have to take advantage of that when you're doing it. And with this age of social media, I don't know what the problem is, but somehow we do not promote our schools as well as we should.
And in most cases, it doesn't cost anything but a little time.
Yeah.
But a little time, because, for now, social media is basically free, and All you have to do is, get with whatever the algorithms are that point people in your direction. Getting the hits and the likes and putting out the content, whether it be pictures or video, short videos. In order, I mean, there should be a master class on it. We should be teaching social media studies.
Absolutely.
So in order to maximize that, because right now it's free. We don't have to have multi-million-dollar budgets in order to advertise. We can do it that way because kids are out there. They have their own social media. They want hits. They want likes. They the clicks and like era is here. That's what we're about now, and that's fine because there was a time when it wasn't that way. So I'm all for the NIL. I'm all for marketing and self-promotion and getting your name out there and getting yours. Absolutely. Within the scope of the rules. I'm absolutely all for it.
Well,
let me say this. I want to interject very quick. I want to tell. I have some favorite Alcorn players. That if they didn't attend Alcorn, I would like to have them play at Grambling. It's a short list.
I want to hear this list.
It's a short list. I mean, obviously, did y'all know that Steve McNair came to a Grambling football camp?
Yeah, I knew about that.
Okay, good. But Steve is the obvious. I'm not, he's the obvious. But there's two of them that actually played together. Charlie Spiller and Nate Hughes. I like those guys, man.
Really?
I like those kids, man. I got a chance to become friends with Charlie, man, over the internet. His sister, Cookie, went to Grambling.
Okay, yes, you did.
Yeah. So I know Charlie. I mean, Charlie's a good kid, man. I wish that was one of the two players that I wish came to Grambling, man, because he was a good player. He probably would have. Don't get me wrong. He still would have had a hard time because we had a lot of great receivers during that time. So it's not like it would have been a cakewalk for him. He probably being an Alcorn was probably the best thing for him because, he as good as he was, he wouldn't have had the numbers because we had so many great receivers during that time. So
I think they called him Charlie Spiller, the Jaguar Killer, or something like that.
I love it. That sounds like a Callie Nicholson nickname right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna name 4 Alcorn receivers, and these were duo receivers. You had Charlie Spiller and Nate Hughes, right?
Right.
And then you had, and this is probably not a fair question. Then you had Terrence Small and Cedric Tillman.
Yeah.
Which were the better duo receivers?
Two of those guys played with McNair, right?
1 year.
1 year, okay. McNair. And then the other two played with Donald Carey, right?
Right.
Wow. I mean, those are two good quarterbacks to have as receivers. I mean, those are your best friends. I mean, those guys would throw it. I didn't follow Alcorn as much back then, as far as like individual players, other than Steve. So I would have to go with what I know, which was Charlie and Nate.
Yeah.
I just know them. I didn't really know those other guys enough. I remember their names. I know they put up numbers, no doubt. No doubt.
You won't believe this, but Spiller is a dynamic organist. Man, he can play an organ. He's a
really?
Yeah. And Nate right now is Dr. Nate Hughes.
Dr. Nate.
And I think now he's at Emory University, and he's specializing in, he's an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
But he's specializing in heart transplants, I think now.
Okay, well, he's a solid kid, man, and I'm glad he's a doctor, and I expected nothing less of him when I had a chance to meet him briefly. I think I got Nate in the game one time. He was having trouble getting in the game at Grambling one time. I got him in the game, so and he didn't know I knew him. I'd say, Nate, what's going on, man? He was like, hey, how you doing? I said, can I help you? He said, yeah, man, I'm having a hard time getting in the game. Somebody, tickets or whatever. I was like, hey, man, okay. I walked up to, I knew the person that was working at the gate, like, hey, man,
Grambling is one of my favorite stadiums to go to if I got a golf court.
Oh, of course. You'll definitely get your steps in. You definitely get your steps in the Grambling now, no doubt. Now, Alcorn, don't get me wrong. Let me tell you something, man. When I came to Alcorn's homecoming 2 years ago, I vowed never to come back to an Alcorn homecoming again, unless I was living in an RV Thursday night before homecoming with a golf cart. That's the only way I would do it, and I refused. I caught myself getting up early. I think I left Grambling maybe about 4:00 in the morning, got to Vicksburg about maybe 5:30, 5:45, 6:00. I said, okay, all right. I got a short little distance to go down the highway, and I'm turning that long, winding road. I'll be there. So I got down there. It was no traffic. I had a couple of cars come past me. Everything was good. Turned on to the street. Everything was good. Went around that corner. Dead stop. And I stayed there it took me probably about an hour and a half or longer to get to the gate.
Yeah.
And I said I would never do it again unless I was staying in the RV and was already there. There'd be no way that I would do it. So I didn't go to this last homecoming and Alcorn homecoming. And I just wish it was just a regular game. I probably would have come, but no, I'm not doing that again.
Well, Ray, what was your opinion on your head coach's comments about Alcorn's homecoming? You know, I think he made.
I have no comment on that. No comment on that.
Okay.
Because I didn't really hear what he said. I heard bits and pieces of people saying what he said, but I never really heard exactly what he said. And everybody's entitled to an opinion. And if he said anything like Alcorn's homecoming was better than ours, I'm not going to agree with it.
Well, he didn't say nothing like that. I just think that he had never been in that type of environment before. You know, when you from Southern California or up north, and you just hadn't seen that before, that's a whole different.
Well, I will say that, and I've been to Southern's homecoming, I've been to Jackson's homecoming, I've been to your homecoming, I've been to Grandma's homecoming. I'm trying to think of anybody else. I don't think I've been to anybody else's homecoming. So those are the 4 that I've been to. And I know that I like Alcorn's. I love Alcorn's campus. I love it. Yeah. I love the green space. I love the buildings you have. I love that you don't like people to walk on the grass. I remember I hear stories about people, man, you get kicked out of school, you walking on the grass. I've heard those stories, man. So, but you guys maximize. I'm telling you, when I went 2 years ago, I didn't see a piece of green grass nowhere because it was covered with cars, tents, RVs, and everything. Y'all maximize every inch of that campus, and I love it.
And I think that's what was eye opening to him. From the minute he crossed the Cattle Gap, he didn't see nothing but tents and RVs and smoke. It's
impressive. Now it's impressive. I remember that line of RVs. I mean, the line of tents over there, man. It was just like a whole row, and they were all like almost like they were perfectly straight. Man, it was cool. I'm like, man, that's impressive, man. And I just like walking around and kind of see, because I'm a tailgate guy, so I like to walk around and see what everybody else is doing, so I can get some ideas and things like that. So I just go around and kind of, I like that. I'm gonna try this, or let me look at that, and kind of thing, and kind of bring that kind of whatever it is, even if it may be just the name of a tent company that has a really nice looking tent. That I saw a guy that had a little trailer that he had a TV on it, had a little grill on it. It was just like a pull behind trailer. It was custom built. It was real nice custom built. And so I just, took some pictures of it, asked him where he got it from and things like that. So I remember seeing the guy used to have that big, was it a truck called Cherokee? It was purple. He had it pimped out in purple and gold with the Indians all over and stuff. That was cool, man. I forgot I think it was from Natchez. I think the guy was from Natchez.
Well, I think what Coach Jackson was trying to say, I think it depends on what side of the fence you're on. If you like him, there was you took that context of it, and if you didn't like him, you took a different view of what he said. But I don't think
Possibly.
he had any. Yeah, I don't think he had any malice about Grambling when he said that. I just think that he was just trying to get more emphasis on, hey, look, let's do our campus up. You know, he hadn't been there long enough to see what it really like. I don't believe.
Right.
So
Right.
I wouldn't read anything into that. However, you talked about earlier about people uh, not. We were talking about not taking advantage of opportunities and when you had them, you know. So me and Mike have this disagreement about who's the first. You know, I don't care who's the first. I care about what's happening now. So if you say Jackson State stole that song from y'all, it's important to know whether they do it better than you did it. And if everybody had forgotten about whether you ever did it anyway, you know, because of how they took it and moved it to the level that it is now. Now, of course, your opinion will probably be that they don't do it as good as we did it. But
Well,
that's what's important to me.
well, I think I said it earlier. The problem with what happened with us, with me, was that we stopped playing it.
Right,
So, regardless of how well we did it, when we stopped playing it,
right,
Jackson kept playing it.
right,
So it became theirs. Now, to
right,
us, when we would hear Jackson play, we're like, "Oh man, that's crazy," and we would boo Jackson because
right.
we know the thing. But we stopped playing it for whatever
Yeah,
reason. So, and we would play it. Now, the only time I would see us play consistently when we played Jackson.
yeah,
That's the only time I really saw us play consistently is when we played Jack. Now, in the past couple of years, we would play it coming off the field. And when we started, we were playing, we were playing it off, coming off the field and things like that. But Jackson, I like Jackson's band. They're one of my favorites. I like their music. I like their field shows. They're one of my favorites.
yeah,
Some schools just have better writers and arrangers. Uh,
yeah.
I take real nice technical over real loud any day.
Right,
Anybody can blow
exactly.
loud.
Right,
If you got a bunch of whole notes, you can blow loud.
yeah.
You know, so
So,
I like technical. I like the little idiosyncrasies in music. I like hearing woodwinds and everything. I just don't like hearing trumpets and trombones and baritones and tubas. So that's just me. Now there's some people who think loud is better. I'm not one of those people. I like the full sound. I like FAMU sound. I like Bethune-Cookman sound. I like
so,
Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff has some good arrangements.
so
When they had that guy
I,
there before.
I'm in Baton Rouge, so you ain't trying to say nothing, are you? Yeah.
I'm just telling. The Southern Blow Line to play a lot of whole notes? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But they also from time to time, in all of that, they'll have some really good, unique song selections.
Hmm.
You know that they have, and I like that. They'll come up with something. Oh man, I never thought to play that one. Oh wow, that's great. And I do like. If I had to go around and kind of pick bits and pieces of everybody's performance to take. I like how Jackson State's drum majors come into. I like the whole get ready thing. I like their crowd participation, how they get them coming in all the way to the end until when they leave the stadium.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. There's nobody else that does that. From playing Get Ready to playing We Came to Play, to playing the show, all those things, man, it makes for a great crowd experience and to grow up year after year from infancy to adults knowing what's going to happen. It makes it louder and louder every time. They don't have to go and groom years and years of freshmen and sophomores in college to try to go, because you got that at junior high and kid in grade school coming up going to the game. So their game day, it's hard to beat Jackson's game day experience. That's just real when it comes
Well,
to the band.
well, I'll
It's hard
say
to
this.
beat it.
I'll give them credit for this. You try not to give them Tigers a lot of credit, but uh, one of the things I give them credit for is they do the same exact thing, and people are still waiting for them to do it, rather than
Exactly.
say, "Oh, they finna do the same thing."
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And when the pom poms get to going, come on, man, it ain't nothing like that.
Yeah.
When Southern plays defense, Jags defense, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's things that they're known for. You know,
Right.
those are the best. That's the best of us. That's the best
Right.
stuff from us. You know, the bad stuff from us is playing while the team is in scoring position, the band, you know, that kind of stuff. I don't like that. And I love the bands, but I don't like that. I don't like when the band plays when when the team has got the ball and needs to have quiet and the band is playing. I'm not for that, man. That bothers me to no end about that kind of stuff. And Grambling is guilty of it. Yes, Grambling is
Well,
guilty of it.
well, the last thing I'll say about my disappointment in the bands nowadays is the bands are not a part of the game itself anymore. And what I mean by that is you got the horns challenging the horns across the way rather than motivating the team. You know, they're not playing your fight song or none of that. It happened with Alcorn the last couple of times where we were in scoring position and they challenging and then we score and then hey, wait a minute, we got to put this down and start playing Cherokee. So
Mhm.
that's my disappointment in the band nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, taking it. I know. I remember Dr. Greg's, Isaac Greg's, at Southern was good at it. They didn't play. They didn't play while the team had the ball. He wouldn't allow it. You sit down. You
Hey,
know, when it was time to play, y'all play your sectional stuff. That's cool. He said, but I don't ever recall seeing Southern's band get warned about playing while the team had the ball. In my time, now it might have happened, but I don't remember seeing it. But the bands are there. The bands are a great part of Black college football
Yep.
experience. They're a great part of it. Let me repeat that. A great part, but they're not all. They're not all the part. They're part of the pieces of the puzzle that put together the game. You're there to support the team. You're
Yeah.
there to get the cheerleaders involved, to get the fans involved, whether it be shouting defense, offense, touchdown, playing neck, tiger rag, all those things that come with supporting the football team. There's times to do talent challenges. There's plenty of time. I've seen some games where I've been in certain games and some teams the bands timeout come by, nobody's doing nothing. This is first
Yep.
half, the second quarter, nothing.
Yep. You
You
can
know,
hear a cricket in the stadium.
yeah. But
I'm
then on the bad note, when I went to the capital city, that was horrible because all you had was just playing it who could play the loudest, and you heard nothing. It was I don't know which one is worse, not playing at all or playing over each other.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, and then when the SWAC came in and tried to put those rules in, they, the bands are, oh, you're trying to kill it, but no, you're killing it because I don't want to hear you playing at the same time. I want to hear what that band plays, then I want to hear what that band plays in response. I don't want to hear you playing at the same time because
Yeah.
what is it proving? It's not proving anything. One band's a little louder than the other one. The other sounds a little better as far as what they're playing in the other one. But you can't really hear it because both of them are playing at the same time because they think that that's what they need to do in order to be considered the best. Or we got y'all, we beat y'all, in the fifth quarter or during the game or zero quarter. So
and,
that's
and
just my little soapbox. But I love the bands, and sometimes I just wish they would just. I don't want to. I don't want the SWAC to get involved with a lot of the rules and regulation regarding them. But I think that the ads and the presidents and the band directors need to come and have meetings. And I mean everybody in the conference. They need to have meetings to say, man, we understand it, we get it. Y'all trained to play against the band, all that kind of stuff. But we try to win a game.
and
This
Ray,
could cost us a championship.
something,
Penalty.
Ray, I'm gonna tell you something. See, I was on the grip at Alcorn, right?
Right. Right.
And so I'm a fan of those older band directors. And one of the things that those guys did not do, they didn't disrespect the other school's band nor name. And to me, I just see a lot of that going on in today's band. And for the life of me, I don't know what's going on. When the visiting band come to Grambling, why don't you play to the home side?
When the visitors band comes to the stadium,
when the visitors band come to Grambling, play to the home side. Alcorn fans see Alcorn band at home.
Right.
Let Gremlins fans see Alcorn band. We don't need to play to Gremlin sideline. And I think Gremlin did the same thing yet because I was looking at the game Saturday on TV. Like I said, my aunt passed and I wasn't able to attend the game, and so Gremlin played to the visitor side, and I like.
Oh, you talking about at halftime? I got you.
Yeah,
I got you.
And
I think I remember a time when there was when it was TV that they kind of I guess they didn't make you, but they really wanted you to play toward the home side because that's where the cameras were. So, but I have noticed, back in the day and sometime, periodically where, the team plays toward your fans. So, I'm okay with that. I'm not really concerned with that too much. But I'm more concerned about what they do while they're here. Like, playing during the game over each other, not playing at all, and things like that. Those things concern me more than the halftime show because we got fans sitting over there. I don't want to see the back of my band. I want to see what they're playing. And even though I know I probably heard them the week before at home, I get it. But yeah, I get you. I understand.
Well,
let me ask you guys some questions. Why I got you?
Okay.
What are some of your players? What are some of the great players that you found in the conference that you would like to see it play at Alcorn?
Hey man, Tremaine Johnson, number one. That I've seen, I would say Tremaine Johnson. Everybody would probably have liked to have Jerry Rice. I saw him play. Of course, I was at the 1984 game between Alcorn and Valley. Leon Sears at Jackson State was a beast.
Okay.
And you guys had a big defensive tackle. Was it Big Dean Smith or something like that?
That was Tech.
Okay.
We had Gary Big Hands Johnson, Buck Buchanan, Ernie Ladd.
This guy here was a defensive tackle on that team that y'all went out there and played when y'all played SMU that time.
You talking about Robert Smith? Robert Smith.
Yes, sir. Man.
Yeah, Big Bird. Call him Big Bird.
I would love to see him wearing that purple and gold, man. Woo! He was major. He was major.
Do you guys remember the double headers that they used to play at Jackson?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those were the good old days, weren't they?
Man, that was some fun time, man. The double header thing. I only remember being at one double header, but it was a non-SWAC. It was Grambling played somebody, and then I think we played in Houston, so it must have been we supposed to be playing Texas Southern, and I think the Houston Cougars had the game after us, so they were rushing us out of the Astrodome and getting ready. Getting ready for the Houston Cougars to play somebody. But I do remember hearing about those double headers in Jackson, man. I can imagine that must have been some good times.
Yeah, one year Alcorn played Grambling in Jackson, the opener, and then following that game, Jackson State played Tennessee State.
Man, wow, that would have been a great game to go to.
Both tickets get you one ticket when you buy.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
That would be great today. That would be great if that happened today. Yeah. With the way both all four teams are playing right now. That'd be great today.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever been a time where we've gone this long without having played Valley. I can't remember last time we played Mississippi Valley. It's been so long, man.
Well, what you trying to say, man? What you trying to say? Y'all ain't got a win on the schedule.
No, every game we got coming up is a winnable game. There's not one that we cannot beat. We got Bethune, Pine Bluff, Alabama State, and Southern. Every single one of them will beat them. So, even all the two teams we just played, the only one that beat Alabama State Alabama A&M whooped us. They whooped us. They had a number. They whooped us. But Alcorn, man, You
We
know,
struggle against y'all every year. I don't care who's on the field.
yeah, but
I
I
don't care
don't
if
know.
y'all down y'all third quarterback and
Oh,
your
I remember
coach.
y'all came. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just have, just like we used to have Jack. I mean, there was a time, man, where Jackson could not beat us at nothing. They couldn't beat us. I mean, I remember when they had Casey Theriot and some good team, man, and that's when what's the guy name? The coach, Kamaji. That was Kamaji was the coach, and the same thing happened 2 years in a row. The Theriot came down, man, and it was the last couple of series, man, and uh, they would look at team was looking for the call timeout, and he never called timeout. The clock kept running. They had to rush the play, end up throwing out the end of the back. Man, let me tell you something. I have some people, man, that they were convinced that we can never beat Grambling. So that's why when they beat us, they get so animated because it's like, damn, we finally beat them, man. But I remember a couple of years, man, where I knew we didn't have a good team. I knew that their team was better, and we just found a way to win. When they came into Grambling undefeated that year, and they made a mistake. They stomped on the G,
I,
and
I was at that game.
Ah.
I
and
was
let me
at
tell you, they were ranked. They were ranked. Jackson was ranked. They were undefeated. They came into Grambling. They rerun the SWAC. They came and stood and stomped on the G. Ask me how many offensive touchdowns they scored. 0. The only score they got was a pick six, a defensive touchdown at the end of the game. That's the only way they scored. We didn't even let them score on offense. They were averaging like 30-something points a game.
But Ray,
They,
I can remember the times when Grambling had Doug and Pennyway, and Alcorn would beat them, but Jackson couldn't stay on the field with them. And I just never understood that Jackson would have the better team. And
yeah.
and you know what? We couldn't do nothing with Jackson, but I think it was just something about Caston playing Robertson in September because he never did want to play him in November. He said, "Man, you
And then
play."
sometimes it's a matchup thing. But I just like we had a wide receiver named Clyde Edwards, man. We call him the Jackson killer. We said he should be in Jackson's Hall of Fame because he has 100-yard game every game. And for 4 years he played, he had 100-yard game every single game. And it wasn't like Jackson turned him down, or it wasn't none of that. He just got off. I mean, he was a great receiver. He was an all-time lead receiver in yards, but so he was gonna catch it regardless. But I've never seen anybody have a string of wins. Success against one team like that from that position. I mean, he would have 120, 150 yards. 7 catches, 3 touchdowns. It's just crazy numbers. So, but yeah, man, those I look around, man, and just see the different landscapes when we're going through different commissioners and things like that, and the ebb and flow of how the conference has, where it started off to 7 teams, and then losing almost all of the founding members, with the exception of Prairie View and Southern, with the advent of the Alabama teams, and Pine Bluff coming back into the conference, and the Florida teams coming in, and all of that, man, and wondering how long is Valley going to hold on, all of that, man, and I just wish that that we would just recruit better, maintain better, you know, uh, dig outside of the SWAC when it comes to trying to find coaches. Don't always find recycled coaches over and over and over again.
Well, I got one last question for you, Ray.
Sure.
One last question. And that is, what kind of job you think the commissioner's doing? What's your take on his tenure as commissioner?
In all fairness, I don't really know a lot that's happened. I don't know if that's the indication of it's going so smooth that it's undetectable or that just nothing is going on. Um, I've met, Mr. McClellan a couple of times. He's been to the Legends Hall of Fame thing when we inducted one of the players that coached under him as an athletic director. I just don't know a lot about it. I mean, I like the team. I like letting the teams get their own deals when it comes to uniforms. I mean, I like Russell, some of the stuff they did. I just didn't like having teams having the same uniforms as the other teams. I just, we had 3 teams in the conference that's black and gold.
You're right.
So so there's only so many good looking uniforms, in that color scheme, and you playing against a team that's got the exact same colors you have, and it got almost sometimes the exact same uniform. And I wish there was a way that you say, hey, y'all, you have this, you can't get this, and
right.
So nobody would be matching or something like that.
You got 3 Tigers in the conference.
Yeah, exactly. So, I expanding the footprint, I'm okay with the FAMU and Bethune thing. I'm not for Tennessee State being in the conference. I said it. Yeah, I said it. I'm not for being in the conference. They don't, to me, they bring no added value to the conference to me. Now, if somebody were to leave and we were looking for somebody else, but I just don't, I think politics is keeping Tennessee State, from doing anything outside of their normal Ohio Valley thing. So I'm not a real big fan of Tennessee State, but
I think with this money that they're talking about, they're supposed to be getting, you can forget it now with them trying to them coming to the SWAC. I believe that now they're gonna feel like they have the budget to do some of those things going on.
Well, but they've had an indoor facility. They've had really nice, facilities. It's just that they can't be consistent. And, sometimes it's about the hire. I mean, there's people that question when we hired Hugh Jackson. There was people who questioned, about Dion. There's people who questioned about Eddie Robinson Jr. at Alabama State. There's a question, like, wow, why would you do that? I mean, did that make a whole lot of sense? Oh, wow, I mean, a guy with no experience at all? Huh. But if a guy with no experience is smart enough to surround himself with people who have more experience than he does, then that makes him a really good coach in the grand scheme. So,
I said I wasn't gonna ask you no more questions, so I wouldn't. I was gonna jump on that, but I'm gonna stay off of it.
Go ahead and ask him the Dion question.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm good. Go ahead, Mike.
Man, look here. Before we let you go, I've had a great time. I still want to talk more about Grambling football, some of the defensive guys, but we can do that some other time. Cause I'm still just amazed of. We've had such a great history, and when Bledsoe and I started this thing with Parnell, our goal is to push our history out there and tell our stories, and maybe that could be one way of getting our young black kids back to our HBCUs. And even though we got our natural rivalries and that kind of thing, I'm gonna say this: I think every young black kid in America should watch the Southern Jackson State football game. I think that's one of the most hated rivalries in black college football. Jackson.
Well, my thing I wanted to do is I wanted to bucket list games around the conference. I've been to the Southern Jackson game when they had it in the Superdome. So I've been to many of those games. I don't really like going to them while it's in Baton Rouge because I just don't like the confined space.
Oh, watch it.
I mean, come on. I mean, am I lying? Am I lying? I'm not lying.
Yeah.
I just think that it's easier to maneuver around Jackson than it is Baton Rouge. So that's just me.
Hey, I want to get Brown on the show, man. I ain't gonna speak negative of Baton Rouge.
No, I'm just saying. I remember. I mean, I've been to the game. I know how hard it is coming over that hump. That's not. I'm not making that up. That's
Right.
true. That hump is horrible. Just like that turn right before you get ready to go in that over there by where Backyard Burger is. Everybody's parking in the freaking median. That is crazy to me at Jackson. That is crazy.
Right. Is it harder to get on Alcorn's campus, or is it harder getting over the hump?
Well, it's all about timing. It's all about when you get there. Now, if you get there early, it's easy to get by both of them.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you're not on Alcorn's campus, if you want to be safe, midnight the night before, sleep in your car, bring you a pillow and a blanket, sleep in your car. That'd be my suggestion.
That's exactly what happened this past homecoming. I got up at there at 6:45, and I still waited an hour before I got on campus. I went there Friday night at 11 o'clock. Didn't get on campus till 12. That's Friday night. So it's bananas. People were going on campus, spending the night on campus. They had tents up, blankets, sitting out under the tents all night long.
That's cool. That's cool, man. Well, man, let me tell you something, man. It's been a pleasure. I was glad I was invited onto the show, man. I applaud what you guys are doing. I want you guys to keep doing it. Invite me back anytime if you want to talk Grambling football or Grambling sports or anything like that. I'm available to be a guest on your show at any time, man. So feel free to contact me.
Hey, man.
Appreciate you, Ray.
Thanks so much for coming on the show. And before you go, if you were talking to a young kid and you were recruiting him to Grambling, what would you tell him?
Well, if you wanna see the world, you can come to Grambling and see the world, whether it be as a part of the football team, a student athlete, or the band, or part of the dance groups or anything like that. Our name still holds some weight in the lexicon of America. So you can go many places and wear that G, and people will know. And you just tell, and when they say, "Well, is that Georgia?" No, it's not Georgia. Oh, it must be Grambling. They don't even mention Green Bay. So, because Georgia's hot right now. So I would tell them to come if you want to come and get a good education, don't want to get distracted by a lot of the trappings that children and kids have these days. Come, nice campus, nice facilities, dorms, great residents. Great cafeteria, and come, and then you can get friends that you will have for a lifetime. Come back and enjoy a homecoming for 30 years, like a lot of people are doing, and you'll have friends for life, not just ones you went to class with or somebody who has the same shirt on as you, somebody you actually will know.
Well, that sounds like a good speech for the parents too.
Absolutely.
Hey, and to everybody who watched our show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll be posting shows, and when you hit that subscribe button, it'll notify you. And we like to get our likes up, so hit the likes button. And people who are young kids who are in high school who wants to attend an HBCU, point them to our show. Point them to your guidance counselors. It's your high school, and we're here to tell our story and to let you know what HBCU is about. And tonight's show was based on the history of Grambling football, which is a profound history. A history that's like no other, and hey, it's all about the G tonight. Right, and I predict, Mike, this is going to be the most watched show that you guys had thus far. Once you put it out, I predict that. I tell you what, that happens, man. When next time you come to Mississippi, I'll buy you a steak dinner. No problem. No problem. No problem at all. Well, now we got to go to Jackson. We got to go to the Westin Hotel. And eat it there. That's fine. There's another great place in Jackson. I'll probably name Tico's. I'm probably throwing some advertisement out there, but there's another. Throw a shameless plug out there. Hey man, go there and tell me you want them to advertise on your program, man. No, I need to, don't I? Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, who's gonna come out the West before you go? Well, to me, what happens? This tells it all. This tells it all to me. We got a 2-week break before we play Bethune-Cookman. If we
3-week break.
Huh?
I said 3-week break if you're playing Bethune right now.
No, because here the reality of it is we haven't beaten Bethune-Cookman since 2004. We played them, I think, 4 times since 2004. We haven't beaten them. So they have our number for whatever reason. We know that they're not a better team than us, but for some reason we haven't beat them, and we've had championship teams that have not beat them.
Okay.
Championship teams that have beat them. So if we come out the first half of that game on October 28th, because that's when we play them, and we do not put together a new game plan, a new strategy, mixed with some of the best of the old, and methodically move down the field and methodically stop people from moving the ball on us, I'm thinking we could probably go 3-1 in the next 4 games. That's my worst case scenario. It better be. But we realistically could go 4-0 because we could actually beat everybody that's on our schedule. They're not that difficult to beat. The 2 of the teams are the 2 worst teams in each division, with Pine Bluff and Bethune. So those 2 should be a lock. Should be. But we're not. We haven't played our complete game. Our quarterback is doing well. Our running backs are doing well. We have to get our line is improved. We've got to get better on defense. We have to get better on our play calling. We have to get better on our down and distance. And if we win out, then that's all I can ask for, because that's a 7-win season for us after having won 3 last year. So to me, that's great. That's a good season for us. Not the Grambling standard, but it's a good season after having won 3 games the year before. Now, I don't know how many people play each other with those remaining schools. I don't know. I think Alcorn and Southern have played yet. Or have they?
No.
No. So that game is always interesting. I know Alcorn usually has Southern's number, even back to the days of Johnny Thomas. Hey man, it amazed me how Johnny Thomas would go down and it would take that team down in Baton Rouge and win in Baton Rouge. I'm like, how is that even done? How is that even done, man?
Top Southern for having an undefeated season.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and there's some spoilers. I mean, like I said, if we don't play our game, I mean, I don't think we should have a problem. We shouldn't theoretically have a problem, but our defense has not been playing well, and our offense has been inconsistent with the wide receivers, and our penalties have been killing us. We just have some penalties that don't even make sense. Personal fouls, sportsmanlike conduct. Those things are preventable. I get a holding every now and again, but come on, man. Putting somebody's face mask and stuff like that, it's not even needed.
You set me up, man. You set me up. I said I ain't have no more questions for you. You just set it up for me.
I'll take 2 more. I'll take 2 more questions from you, Mike B.
Okay. Here's the question: is that coaching? And
it's a bit of everything. Yeah, ultimately, you would say that if a team is not disciplined, that it's the head coach's fault. Absolutely. It could be the person who recruited that player. They didn't do their homework enough to really see what that person was like. Or that player may be going through something. They may need to sit that player down and talk to them, because there may be some other issues going on that have nothing to do with football that might be causing that. So I think this correctable, but because every time we come up with a good play or two, first down, it's 3rd and long, we get a first down, it's hold it. A good play is personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct. Those things, when they happen so often, either you sit the player down and find somebody else to replace that player, or you just put up with the fact that every now and again they're gonna burn you and cost you a good play. So you hope that none of that happens. You hope that player doesn't have anything outside that's causing that person to lash out and things like that. And hopefully, if it is, those things could get solved and that player can get some semblance of normalcy back in their lives, to where they're not doing that, because it could spill out to other things other than football, and you definitely don't want that to happen.
So My last one is this one.
Okay.
You talked about 3-1. Y'all had the possibility to go 3-1 the rest of
Yes.
the way.
Yeah.
If you go 1-3, what's your remedy?
Make the changes on offense and defense. It's no mystery. If we go 1-3, that means we're 4-7. That means we won one more game than we won last year. Okay,
Mhm.
it's time for some, and I'm not talking about position coaches. I'm talking about coordinators. I mean, that's just the
Yeah.
reality. The
Yeah.
coordinators have to go. Coach Jackson has a contract. It's long. So
You
stability is
said
there.
coordinators, but I believe you talking about one. Because you've been talking about how good the offensive quarterback's been doing, the running back's been doing good, receivers doing good. That don't sound like a coordinator issue to me
It
on the
is.
offensive side.
I didn't say it was offensive.
That's what I just said.
Here's my thing. And when we hired the coach, I didn't agree with it because Coach Fobbs last year, Grambling's defense was ranked 6 in total defense.
Mm-hmm.
Alcorn was ranked number 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, and again, I've never met Coach Thornton in my life. Don't know him.
Right.
All I know is what I see. So I'm saying that if we were 6th, and Alcorn was 5th at the time when he was there. We needed somebody. If we were going to go in the conference, we should be going after number 1 or 2 defensive coordinator. Not when we were already 6th. We didn't need to get the 5th. So, and I'm pretty sure I'll get a phone call, but that's fine. And but the thing is, I can't be fired. I can't be
Right.
fired.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well,
they may get upset, but if they can tell me where I'm lying or saying something that's not true, then I'm willing to listen. But that's just how it goes. Not just at Grambling. If the same thing, if any other team goes the same way you're talking about us going 1-3, yes, no one's going. There's no one is safe. No one is safe. I mean, the trainer might be going. I'm telling you, nobody's going to be safe from it.
Except for the head coach, because he got a long contract.
The head coach has got years. Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And we've got to bring up my good friend Charles Edmonds. Charles was on my show. You saw it, Mike. He was on my show one time, and I told him what was going to happen at the end of our previous coach's tenure. I told him exactly what was going to happen, and everything that I said was going to happen happened exactly like I said was going to happen. Because to me, it just made sense for it to happen that way. It's not like I knew something or I'm some Nostradamus or something like that.
Right.
I just looked at the facts and said, well, that seems the most plausible thing that would happen. And they said, well, no, they'll never fire that coach. I'm like, really? I said, so you mean that we fire a 4-time football coaching SWAC coaching football coaching coach, winning coach who won 3 as a player, 4 as a coach. We'll fire him, but we won't fire somebody else. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Nobody is safe.
Well,
and they shouldn't be.
I think more people are thinking about economics when they say that, though. We can't afford to fire.
Understand. But people, but the thing is, it's all about how you structure the contract. I mean, you can structure. I remember Comedy had a $50,000 buyout clause. So if he messed up, they could just fire him, give him $50,000, and he was gone.
Yeah.
So it's just how you structure the deal. They could have said, you can pay that guy, but we're going to pay you incrementally over a period of time. We're not going to dump $300,000 in your account. Use how you structure the deal. If the coach, whoever coach it is, doesn't agree with the terms, find another coach.
Okay.
Find another coach. That's simple. It's probably unpopular, but you got to structure the deal, and it needs to be an advantage of the school and not the coach.
Yeah.
Well, Ray, thank you for coming on, man. We're going on right at 2 hours, so this has been a good.
Hey, man, I told you it was gonna be epic.
I didn't think we were gonna go this long, man. But look here, I tell you what, let's do a show probably the week of the Celebration Bowl, the week of the SWAC championship.
That's fine with me.
Let's see who comes out of this East. Let's
Now I'm gonna say this. And this is gonna be my last thing I'm gonna say. I know Alcorn came over to the West thinking y'all gonna come over to the West and brother. I heard y'all jumped at the chance to come to the West.
I think
y'all told the commission, yeah, we'll go to the West.
I think it was better. I mean, look at the natural rivalries. You got Southern. We got a rivalry with Southern. Alcorn and Grambling, I think, has always been a pretty good rivalry. So I just thought it was better. We don't really have a true rivalry with Alabama State or with the Alabama A&M. You know,
but the reason why I felt that, and I understand that there's an opportunity now because it just to me it's redundancy. Let's just say Alcorn and Southern, Alcorn and Jackson have really good years. Both the teams have really good years, and I know that's a possibility. It may be happening, but my thing is if you're gonna split them up, then split everybody up. Split all the national rivals up. Yeah. If you're gonna do that, because Alabama State, if FAMU and Bethune in the same division, Alabama A&M, Alabama State in the same division, why shouldn't Alcorn and Jackson be in the same division? When Pine Bluff and Valley can be in the same division, Grambling and Southern can be in the same division, and the Texas schools can be in the same division. That seems more even to me when it comes to everybody being in the same division as their natural rival.
My sentiment exactly. I said the same thing they was talking about it. However, for me, why don't you just do away with the division and be the best record?
Or that.
Yeah.
Or that.
Hey man, so we're going on 2 hours. We'll do a recap show of the SWAC championship week. See who comes out of the East, see who comes out of the West. I
ain't gonna promise you I'm gonna be on that show. It depends on who coming out. So I'm telling you that right now.
I'll be on the show regardless of who's on it, man. Just give me a call.
Well, you know why though? You know why Ray gonna be on there, right, Mike?
Why is that?
He kind of figured he ain't gonna be in it anyway.
Well, you see how people they get one victory, they win by 1 point. Now they think they world beaters. Boy, I tell you.
I would just say this.
You gotta use it when you got it, man. Like I said, you gotta take advantage of stuff when you got the opportunity to.
Wake me up when y'all win the West. That's all I got.
Okay.
Hey,
you ain't got about 5 weeks left. We'll wake you up.
Hey man, it's been a blast, and I love you guys, man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Man.